We've got Jasmine Crockett doing Jasmine Crockett things. She and Jake Tapper are two peas in a pod, and we'll give you a little bit of what they had to say today coming up in a sec. Plus, Pete Hegseth was on Capitol Hill. He started to get attacked by Democrats, and, well, he did what a defense secretary does. He defended himself, and then he fought right back. Plus, Ana Navarro really wants to keep her illegal immigrants around because who else is going to do all of the crap work she doesn't want to do? We'll get to all of it coming up right now. My name is Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like our video today, like our show, and subscribe. And if you want to give us that extra little help, go over to Apple or to Spotify or wherever you like your podcast. Find us, subscribe to us there, and leave us a review if you don't mind. That goes a long way. Huge, huge, important influence. If you like our audio podcast, we really appreciate it. And by the way, if any day you aren't by a device that has the video, you should listen to us on those platforms as well. We're there every single day. Thank you for watching today. And on behalf of everyone here at Town Hall Media and the Larry Show, may I take an opportunity to wish you a happy Juneteenth. Let's remember just a year ago, that incredible Juneteenth celebration at the White House with the President of the United States. I mean, who can forget it, right? Look at that vibrant, sharp as a tack, scintillating, exciting. And look at the crowd, too. I mean, God, it's been so long since we've had a dude in a dress at the White House, but that was Juneteenth just 1 year ago when when I showed you this video a year ago, we were attacked by the White House for putting out a cheap fake video. This is, it's all out of context, everybody. He's fine. Happy Juneteenth. Furthering our Juneteenth celebration, Representative Jasmine Crockett. Sorry, I actually made myself laugh. Let's try that again. I'm sorry, Kevin. That's what you get for making me work on a federal holiday. By the way, you're celebrating Juneteenth today. Thank a Republican. Take two. Jasmine Crockett has some real cojones on her. Congresswoman Crockett actually stood by Joe Biden and said that he was brilliant. She didn't see anything wrong with him. And then today, she decided to step up and tell you that Kamala Harris would have made a much better president, even in retrospect, even when Kamala Harris voters, by the latest polls, are turning on her and saying, yeah, Trump's doing a better job with immigration. Jasmine Crockett is like one of those soldiers from World War II, the Japanese guys who were caught in caves, who thought the war was still going on. Take a look at this nightmare train wreck of an interview she gave. I believe this is with Katie Couric. Who knew she was still working? Listen to Jasmine Crockett tell you like it is, because who can you trust if you can't trust Jasmine Crockett?
Because when you think about it, Kamala Harris, light years ahead of Donald Trump as it relates to qualifications, as it relates to her overall resume, and as it relates to the fact that she was a lot younger. Everybody said that they wanted to get rid of Joe Biden because he was too old. Then you had a younger, qualified, non-felon candidate, and somehow the people still chose the old white man. So, like, for me, I don't think it was.
All right, hold on. We got to jump back. First of all, I would be remiss if I didn't point out the shoulder pads. What the hell is this? Is this like a cast-off costume from the part 1 of Wicked movie? What? Is she an Oompa Loompa? Is she one of the guards at the castle, at Alphaba's castle? What is that? What? That's not form-fitting. You can't tell me her shoulders are really shaped like that. If you're not watching the video of today's show, please pull it up on your favorite streaming or video platform and take a look at these shoulders. And boy, is chartreuse her color. She looks fabulous in chartreuse. She does. Can we just break down what she had to say here? Because there's a whole lot to unpack. And when I say a whole lot, I mean a whole lot of lies.
Because when you think about it, Kamala Harris, light years ahead of Donald Trump as it relates to qualifications.
Let me just, I'm going to stop you right there, Jasmine. They were both up for the job of president of the United States. And you're telling me that Kamala Harris, a former attorney general, failed, a former senator failed, and a vice president / border czar failed, has more qualifications to be president of the United States than a guy whose last job was, let me remember now. Oh, yeah. President of the United States. So you're telling me that someone who's never been president before has more qualifications than a guy who has been president before. It was at this moment in the interview that Katie Couric, the person conducting it, would have appropriately leaned forward and said, excuse me, Congresswoman Crockett, can you explain this to me? Because how can she have more qualifications than Donald Trump, since Donald Trump was literally president for a full term? I mean, that is the ultimate qualification to be president, isn't it? To literally be president. But Katie Couric did not interrupt because, of course, Katie Couric agrees. Because facts don't matter, logic doesn't matter, thinking doesn't matter when you just hate Donald Trump. So we're only 8 seconds in and we've already got a whopper. But then there was more.
As it relates to her overall resume, and as it relates to the fact that she was a lot younger. Everybody said that they wanted to get rid of Joe Biden because he was too old.
Nobody said that we wanted to get rid of Joe Biden because he was too old. We said we wanted to get rid of Joe Biden because he was incompetent. We said we were trying to get rid of Joe Biden because he had mashed potatoes for brains. We said we were trying to get rid of Joe Biden because he couldn't stand upright without assistance. We said we were trying to get rid of Joe Biden because 4 years of Joe Biden was a disaster for our country. At no point did we say, you know what, Joe Biden is perfect. He's the greatest president we've ever had. We'd love to have him more, but you know what, he's just too old. I have a hunch. I have a theory of what's going on here. When she says everybody said they wanted to get rid of Joe Biden because he was too old, what she means is all of her friends, all of her colleagues, all of the Democrats who decided to, guess what, get rid of Joe Biden and then just coronate Kamala Harris. That's just amazing. I still can't get over the shoulder pads. All right, there's more to this, though. I'm not going to waste more time on that short clip. We've got a longer one here. Take it away, Jasmine. And yeah, Katie, please, Katie Couric, could you actually be a tough interviewer here? Can you actually challenge maybe a follow-up now and again? What do you think? You think it's going to happen?
When other people were pressuring him to step down, even when your caucus was wavering, you stood firmly behind him. And I'm curious how you feel with some of these revelations about his sort of decline in energy and perhaps even mental acuity that we've been reading about, and if it's given you any pause and any regret.
That is a great way to ask that question. Again, if I may, since I interview people for a living too, let me give you my version of that question. Everyone knew he had mashed potatoes for brains. Anyone who worked with him, anyone who saw him on a daily basis, just on television, we saw that he was incompetent. And yet you lied and you said that he was just fine. Why did you lie to protect Joe Biden? What was in it for you? But instead we get, do you have any regrets for standing by Joe Biden? Especially given all of the revelations we now have learned. We didn't know it then. There was no way for us to know it then, of course, because Jake Tapper didn't give us permission. But now that Jake's given us all permission and cover with his book, do you have any regrets? Do ya? This is not an interview. This is a full body massage, including the feet.
Not a single one.
Oh, there's a shot.
I still stand by the decision to stand with President Joe Biden and then ultimately standing with Vice President Kamala Harris. And I'll tell you why. The average person has not been given the level of access that the average member of Congress has to the president. I never saw anything in Joe Biden that made me wonder whatsoever. And it's not that I was with Joe Biden every single day, that's for sure. But as I talked about my grandparents, the way that I would describe Joe is like, I mean, he's a granddaddy, right? And so like, you know, the way that my granny was when she was younger versus ultimately kind of where she was at 81 when she ended up passing away. Mentally, she was still there, but like her attitude about certain things, like whether or not she was looking to be as polished or cared to be as polished, or even if she moved as fast, it just wasn't there. We all slow down. But I will tell you that I will take a broken, or however they want to describe Joe Biden, over Donald Trump any given day. Because number one, I know Joe Biden's heart. And I can tell you that when you look at the legislation that he was able to push forward with, this wasn't legislation that was about him and his rich friends. It was legislation that was for the good of the American people. And when you look at the people that he surrounded himself with, even if you're saying that there was a mentally deficient Joe Biden, I know that he absolutely had a mental acuity that is supreme when it comes to comparing him to Donald Trump, because at least he kept good people around him. He kept people that would keep us safe in this country. He kept people that would make sure that even as tensions were rising all around the world, that we were keeping those tempered. He was able to understand with his level of mental acuity who our friends were. He was not getting us into unwarranted tariff wars and things like that. So even if we want to say, which I refuse to accept, that Joe Biden was mentally deficient, let me tell you something. His mental deficiency is still 1,000 times better than what we currently have.
All right. So a couple of things here. First of all, anything else she says other than, I thought Joe Biden was just fine, reminded me of my grandma. Everything after that should just be tossed out for the garbage that it is. Because she's either lying or she's just incompetent and an imbecile. That said, think about what she just said to you and said to Katie Couric, that she would rather have the unelected, unaccountable, nameless, faceless, anonymous cabal that were making decisions on behalf of Joe Biden under his name and utilizing his auto pen than she would have a constitutionally elected and accountable president of the United States. She said, listen, hey, we were getting stuff done with mashed potato brains. Sure, he wasn't doing it, but the people he had around him, what does that mean, the people? Name them. Who do you mean exactly? It's the auto pen. And that's what she would rather. I mean, this is how totalitarians talk and think. Listen, sure, we have a completely incapacitated president, but we're really getting a whole lot done now. Stuff that we want done, our agenda, not even stuff that the American people voted for. And if they don't like what we're doing, there's nobody to be held accountable for it. And that's the way we like it. That's the way we want it. We're Democrats. By the way, quick check-in on Jake Tapper, because see, the framework behind this entire conversation is, as I said, Jake's given us permission to say this out loud now. All the revelations, all the things that we know now, when in fact we all knew it then. We just kept the secret because we had power to retain, don't you know? So given the fact that Jake Tapper tipped the first official domino from the political left to give anybody permission to even say some of these things out loud without being canceled like they tried to do to us when we were doing it when it mattered, when we actually had this guy in the White House, back when it was important to say these things. What's Jake Tapper up to today?
George Orwell once wrote that, quote, "We are all capable of believing things which we know to be untrue. And then when we are finally proved wrong, impudently twisting the facts so as to show that we were right. Intellectually, it is possible to carry on this process for an indefinite time. The only check on it is that sooner or later, a false belief bumps up against a solid reality, usually on a battlefield."
Wow, this is great that he's reading this Orwell quote. And now I'm very excited for him to put his phone away and reflect on his own guilt and his own culpability and the fact that Orwell was writing about him and every single one of his colleagues in the legacy corporate media that lied through their teeth at you and attacked you for seeing the reality before your very eyes. This is great. What a great come to Jesus moment, or maybe come to Orwell moment for Jake Tapper. Are you excited? Are you ready for him to actually finally recognize and see his own guilt, his own responsibility, his own culpability? Let's go, Jake. Bring it home now.
Now, when George Orwell wrote that, he was talking about World War II. He wrote, quote, "The Germans and the Japanese lost the war quite largely because their rulers were unable to see facts which were plain to any dispassionate eye." And then he said, and this is one of my favorite quotes ever, "To see what is in front of one's nose needs a constant struggle." And that's the lesson for me. We all saw it happening, and we all refused to see it.
Wait, what? What? This man is a professional journalist and a professional broadcaster, and as I like to say, a professional teleprompter reader with a fine haircut. Did he just put together the words that I think I heard him put together? Got to roll it back 5 seconds. Listen to this with me, will you?
And we all refused.
Oh, sorry, maybe 10 seconds.
We all saw it happening, and we all refused to see it.
No. Jake, you were so close. You were only 2 letters away from getting it right. We all saw what was happening, but we refused to see it. No. You all saw it happening, but you refused to say it. You can't see it and refuse to see it, pal. You saw it, but you refused to acknowledge it. Because, well, you know, you'd be knocking down your own team. And we all know that. Not only would you be knocking down your own team and harming your team's ability to win in the big game, but even worse, you'd be helping the other team. Actually, even worse, you'd be validating the guys that you hate. The guys on that other cable station that gets all the viewers, or the guys like us on independent media who were calling it out in real time as it was happening. You would be validating us, and you can't do that. That explodes your entire business model. It explodes the entire house of cards that you and your other professional journalists are sitting on right now. We all saw it, but we refused to see it. Oh, Orwell is weeping right now. That's not what Orwell said. If you see it, then you see it. All right, we'll let him finish his preening and his first aid that he's trying to put that bandage on the gaping wound that is journalistic credibility in America. Go ahead, Jake. Patch up that fine gash you've got in your carotid artery as you bleed out all over the stage.
And maybe some of your exceptions, but as a general note, and it can be tough in the world we're in, especially, I mean, Orwell didn't even know, I mean, he didn't have social media to deal with, right? He didn't have Fox. But to
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm not going to let him finish now. What is this gratuitous attack on Fox? Fox had it right, you asshole. Fox had it right. Newsmax had it right. We had it right. And now you're going to attack them and make a gratuitous sort of backhanded slam at them? They saw it and they did say it. And you attacked them, and you had your little pit bull Brian Stelter potato boy to attack them too. He continues to be the biggest jerk on this planet, this Jake Tapper. But hey, he's given Katie Couric and Jasmine Crockett, permission to be able to say something. Happy Juneteenth, everybody. Apparently, Jake Tapper saw this just like you and I saw it, but then he didn't see it. I mean, he saw it, but he didn't see it. Got it? Of course. Sharp as attack. Sharp as attack. We'll finish up with Jasmine Crockett now that she has admitted that she will lie about anything as long as she and her party and cronies continue to retain power over you. she now thinks that she's an expertise on diagnosing the rest of us. See, she didn't see the obvious mental disability that the president of the United States was suffering under, but she does have thoughts about you and how you think and your current psychological well-being. Go ahead, Jasmine. Tell us all about it.
This idea that we don't care how many people get hurt. We don't care how we prostitute our service members, you know, thinking that you have your own special little army that's for you. I mean, it is sick. It is really sick. And anybody that supports it is also sick. And so, you know, we've got a mental health crisis in this country because everyone, no matter how you affiliate yourself, should be against Trump, period. This is not partisan for me. Like, I would give anything to have, it's sad to say, George Bush. Give me any regular Republican nowadays and I would be happy. But right now we have someone who does not care, and he is being enabled by the fact that there are, you know, people that follow him and they pump him up, as well as the people that are surrounding him. And so, you know, my heart breaks for service members, people that signed up to protect democracy and freedom, not only here, but abroad, and were willing to risk their lives. And now literally the very thing that they signed up to fight against is now their commander-in-chief. It really breaks my heart. And I don't know how far he has to go before we can come together and just say, enough is enough. Like,
wow. She's the great uniter, the great healer, you know, just like Barack Obama and Joe Biden before her. She wants to bring us all together. We need unity here, guys. Can't we unify? Because everyone who disagrees with me has a mental disorder, she just said. We have a mental health crisis in this country, personified by anybody who supports Donald Trump. So now let's all get together and harmonize and hold hands and sing Kumbaya. We should all be friends. We should all work together. E pluribus unum, everybody. Come on. Except for those of you who have a mental disorder. That's Jasmine Crockett. And again, spoiler alert, Katie Couric just let that blither on and on and on and nodded with her hand on her chin, thinking to herself, wow, what a thoughtful, intellectual person this is. I can't wait to vote for Jasmine Crockett for president. And Katie Couric at no point said, excuse me, you just called more than half of this country. You called them mentally disabled and ill because of who they support and voted for. And now you're trying to say, let's all come together and have some sort of unity. Do you see some sort of, disconnect there? Now that never happened because it wouldn't happen. Why should it happen? Katie Couric, Jake Tapper, Jasmine Crockett, they're all the same. And they all think the same. They all behave the same. And they all hate you. And they all hate me. So I guess she is unifying us in a certain way. Because honestly, the feeling's growing every day to be very much mutual. There was English in there somewhere. A good time, though, to tell you about my book, Shameless Liars. Shameless Liars. It catalogs all of the lies told in the 2024 presidential election. It's available in paperback, hardcover, and audiobook. And it's my book. I wrote it. And it's all about the 2024 presidential election, the lies about Biden, the lies about Kamala Harris, and the lies about Trump, and the lies about you. So make sure you grab it. Thank you for that. All right, let's move on. The Democrats are really in trouble on the illegal immigrant issue. They're underwater in the polls. Trump is incredibly effective in securing the border. Now the deportations are beginning. And they've tried to come up with a new message to try to tell you that they're right about this. And apparently the message is, hey, everybody, we need the illegal immigrants to stay here because they're doing all the work. There's a winning message for you. And by the way, it's being delivered by your favorite Latino and Latina journalists, Jim Acosta and Ana Navarro. And we'll get to Acosta in a second. But here's mi abuela, Ana, sitting on the CNN panel, trying to explain why we need to keep all this exploited third world slave labor here in America.
And look, what's going to happen here is that we're going to find that milk gets a lot higher, because I don't know if any of you have ever been in a dairy farm. It is god-awful work. We're going to see that groceries and vegetables are higher. We're going to see an effect in our economy, because whether people like it or not, whether Americans acknowledge it or not, undocumented immigrants are an integral part of our society and our economy. And we're going to have to get used to seeing the videos of U.S. citizens detained, of U.S. citizen children being ripped from the arms of their mothers and while they wail, of, you know, dads and moms and business owners. Yeah, we're going to have to get used to it. And look,
I do love the fact that they're finally coming clean and saying this all out loud. These illegal immigrants are working here every day illegally. They continue to break the law. Can I just point that out for you? Everybody says, oh, it's not really a crime to cross the border. Of course, it's a crime to cross the border. You can try to decriminalize it. It's still an infraction of the law. You can not enforce it if you want, but it's still an infraction of the law. It is a crime. Whether you decide it's a civil crime or not is really up to how you, the people in charge of the executive branch of government, decide to enforce the law. But don't blow smoke up my butt and tell me that it's not a crime. Of course it is. But then that's what they say. Okay, you know, sure, it's just that one crime, but they're coming here for a better life. Oh, really? They're coming here for a better life. You mean economically? They're coming here for work and money? Because there's a second crime, because when they were apprehended, they claimed amnesty. Or excuse me, they claimed for asylum. They claimed asylum. It's another word that starts with A. So they crossed the border illegally, broke the law. They get apprehended and they claim asylum status to stay in the country temporarily until they get their hearing. But of course, temporarily means 8 years. But if they were really coming here for a job and for money, that's not legitimate grounds for asylum. So that's the second law that was broken, because they lied to a federal law enforcement official, Border Patrol or ICE. Okay, that's number two. And then let's get to number three. They're working at the dairy farm, Anna. Guess what? How'd they get that job? They have to fill out an I-9. What kind of documentation did they provide? Because we keep hearing they're not illegal. They're just undocumented. So explain to me how someone who's undocumented provides documents to get a job at a dairy farm. And the answer is identity theft. They bought a social security number. They bought a passport. They bought a birth certificate. So there's another crime that they've committed. Every single day they work in this country with false documentation, they're committing a crime. So stop with that. And all the gaslighting about how, oh, they're just, you know, they're not lawbreakers. They're just here living peacefully. They don't commit any more crimes. Of course they do. But I love at least that they're not even trying anymore. I love that they're actually honest and open about it. It's not gardeners and it's not babysitters and it's not, you know, no. Oh, they're working at dairy farms. They're working at hospitals. They're working everywhere. Your whole society is going to fall apart if they leave. Oh, thank you for admitting that they've undermined our economy and salaries and wages and work opportunities forever. And now this whole, oh, well, we're not going to have any milk on the shelves because nobody's working at the dairy farms. Can someone explain to me, maybe Ana, Abuela, you can explain this to me. How in the hell did we have milk on the shelves before everyone came flooding across our border illegally? How did it happen? Was it just magic? Was it, I don't know, were there elves working at these dairy farms? Oh, the construction industry is going to get killed by this if you get rid of all the... How did we build anything in this country before we opened our borders? How did it happen? Or they're lying to you. Maybe they're lying. Anyway, anybody here think that Ana Navarro has ever milked a cow in her whole damn life? I would love to see her milk a cow. Oh, and if the argument is, oh, sure, you'll get your milk The milk will come, buildings will be built, hotel rooms will be cleaned, tables at restaurants will be bussed, produce will be picked, but it's going to cost a lot more because we're going to have to pay higher wages. If that's the argument, then you're admitting that you have been building your economy on exploited slave labor, that you didn't have to pay benefits for. These are the people who say they're for the working man. These are the people who say they're for the blue-collar workers, and yet now they are admitting that they were allowing blue-collar workers from third world nations to undermine wages and benefits in this country for the benefit of big agriculture, big hospitality, big leisure, so those people could get that much richer by utilizing cheap labor. Either way, it's a hell of an argument they've got, isn't it? No wonder they're rioting in the streets. They want to distract you. Now, you may be saying to yourself, oh, that's just Abuela Navarro. She's just a blowhard commentator. She's not somebody in any political power. Well, we've been showing you clips from the governor of California and the mayor of Los Angeles who are saying basically the same thing. And they're not outliers here. This guy right here, his name is Giovanni Chavez. He's the president of the California Young Democrats. Here was his statement on social media about the riots.
I'm here in Santa Ana in solidarity with our immigrant communities. On this day without an immigrant, let us remember that immigrants do some of the hardest jobs, some of the jobs other folks would not be willing to take. My parents are immigrants. My dad installed carpet for a living. My mother was a caregiver. And they did some of the hardest jobs without benefits, with very low pay. And immigrants make sure they keep America running strong. Now let us support our immigrants and combat the Trump administration.
Now, a couple things here, because you saw a lot of Mexican flags in the background when he said he was in Santa Ana. What he meant was Santa Ana, which is in Orange County, California city. It's right near Newport Beach and Costa Mesa. It's the county seat, actually, in Orange County. And it's Santa Ana, not Santa Ana. Okay, just wanted to make sure everyone had the correct pronunciation, because it's hard to figure that out since you see so many Mexican flags in the background. He could have been in some town in Mexico called Santa Ana, but no, he's in California, and it's Santa Ana. That's number one. Number two, look at what he's admitting. These, again, illegal immigrants. He says immigrants, but we know what he's talking about. Illegal immigrants do the jobs that no one else wants to do. Again, how did anything get done in this country before we flooded the border with tens of millions of illegal immigrants? But secondly, the most important tell, as he brings his own parents up here, is that they're doing it all for low wages and no benefits.
Jobs without benefits, with very low pay.
There you go. And he wants to keep that going. He wants the status quo to continue. And color me crazy, but if this is the spokesperson for young Democrats in California, and the rallying cry is, hey, everybody, we got to keep this cheap labor here so they can do really jobs for low wages and no benefits. I mean, listen, you be you, dude. If you want that to be the political message, personally, I think it might be more attractive to say this is crap. Why are we letting people work for pennies on the dollar and for no benefits? And by the way, the no benefits thing, guess what they end up getting? They do end up getting benefits. Like, how can you have a full-time job and not have any health care? Oh, they get health care. You're paying for it with your tax dollars, which again is a break to big ag and all of these industries that hire these low-wage workers, and they don't have to pay them benefits because of protection from people like this. And then they end up saying, oh, look at all these poor people who are working without health benefits. So we have to create a new government program, and it'll be funded by your tax dollars. So if you live in a state that doesn't have all this ubiquitous cheap labor coming from south of the border, your federal tax dollars are going through Medicaid to pay for California's subsidy. Happy about that? But that's exactly what's happening here. And that's the status quo that they want to keep going. And who benefits from it? They do. They do. But listen, at least they're saying it out in the open. They're not the only ones either. Another child of immigrants, Jim Acosta. His name isn't Jim, by the way. He just anglified his name for TV because he's racist. Jim Acosta yesterday at the Center for American Progress, delivering a very progressive message. As you listen to this, I just want you to remember that this man is only 4 months from being an unbiased, nonpartisan journalist in good standing with CNN. Just 4 months ago, they put him on television every single day to deliver the news to you. And you were meant to believe that he didn't have any kind of political opinion. And if he did, he just set it aside, and it didn't affect the way he did his job because he's a professional journalist. And don't you know, they're unbiased. They're objective. They just call balls and strikes, man. They are objective journalists. That's what Jim Acosta was for CNN just 4 months ago. And now listen to him.
The far right in this country has kind of figured out a way to infiltrate, the heartland and to, basically pull, mom and pop from the farm to their point of view. And as it turns out, a lot of those folks vote in these elections. And a lot of those folks have been completely led astray. I hate to say it, but they've just been completely led astray. And we've all just let this happen on our watch with essentially a business model for delivering the news in this country that just does not work anymore.
Well, he was fine cashing those checks in that business model that doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore because they don't hire him. But he's right about the news and the way it's delivered right now. But it's kind of funny if you think about it. His friends and his political ideology, or people who embrace his political ideology, have a monopoly on the news business pretty much. I mean, a monopoly, I think, is defined by if you own basically 85 or 90% of market share. And that's about right. If you look at all of the newspapers and all of the television stations and all of the broadcast networks and all of the cable news networks, sure, there's a couple of outliers. But in terms of the vast number of media outlets, especially when you add pop culture into media, television shows, streaming television shows, I'm talking about fictionalized shows, and the late night comedy shows, it's a monopoly. It's a monopoly. And yet, even with that monopoly on news and information and entertainment and infotainment in this country, he is still sitting up there lamenting at the fact that you stupid redneck yokels on your farms believe anything other than what the enlightened intelligentsia personified by Jim Acosta tell you to believe. That you have your own opinion that in some way diverges from those in their lofty thrones in Washington, D.C. and Manhattan, who are much smarter than you, don't you know? Certainly more enlightened than you. And the fact that you rednecks just can't get it, that you dare to vote for this person and this party that we've been trying to warn you about for decades. I don't think, I mean, you talk about the media elite. And here's a guy who's lost his job, and yet, boy, he still has retained his elite status. I mean, he's a guest at Center for American Progress in Washington, D.C., don't you know? And listen to the disdain, the venomous hate that he has as he looks down his elitist East Coast nose at you morons in the middle of the country. Listen to him again.
The far right in this country has kind of figured out a way to infiltrate, the heartland and to, basically pull, mom and pop from the farm to their point of view. And as it turns out, a lot of those folks vote in these elections. And a lot of those folks have been completely led astray.
Amazing. See, the only way you could possibly disagree with him politically is if you've been led astray and your community has been infiltrated and that you're just stupid. And I would say, okay, Jim, great point there. Great point about how people in the heartland have been led astray and they're voting for this other political party instead of you, the one that you're aligned with. Could I just ask you a quick follow-up question on that? Because the answer that you provide to this question may really just sort of flip the switch for all of those stupid redneck yokels who don't know what they're doing. So let me ask you something on behalf of your political party and your political ideology. Can a man get pregnant? Go ahead. Answer that question, Jim. Give me an answer to that question. Can a man get pregnant? Because your answer will very much inform mom and pop in the heartland. Jim wasn't done. He appeared on a Substack podcast. Boy, what a Mount Rushmore of journalistic giants this is. You got Jennifer Rubin, excised from the Washington Post because even she was too big a lunatic for that newspaper. You got April Ryan. Is she still writing at that thing? What is it? The Griot? Is that it? And Jim Acosta. April and Jim spent the entire first Trump term screaming at whoever the press secretary was and acting like complete and total despicable buffoons. Meanwhile, Jennifer Rubin, she was the conservative columnist at the Washington Post who spent every column inch screeding about Donald Trump. And now the three of them are doing their live stream for No King's Day. And Jim just let loose. Again, I remind you, just 4 months ago, CNN continued to prop him up, put him behind the anchor desk as an unbiased, objective newsman.
I got a question though. Where are the ICE raids at the Trump properties?
Yes.
Can somebody call ICE on the Trump golf course in Virginia?
Yes,
You're telling me there's nobody in there that is undocumented or has some kind of squirreliness going on with their paperwork? Give me a break. Hey, how many immigrants has he married? He's got one buried at his golf course in New Jersey. Isn't she buried by the first hole or the second tee or something like that?
The first hole, yeah, it's the first hole.
Immigrants always doing the jobs that Americans don't want to do.
Stay classy, Jimbo. Stay classy. Listen, he's in the Substack business now. He's got to say stuff to get those clicks. I get it, Do what you got to do there, dude. Trump's married immigrants, one of them buried at his golf course, and those women are doing jobs that Americans don't want to do. That would be Jim Acosta, ladies and gentlemen. Jim Acosta. This is all they've got. This entire segment here that we've wandered through is the current messaging that the left and the Democrats have on immigration. After yesterday's show, and if you missed it, find the segment about the success at the border. How Trump, like that, in less than 5 months, has been able to shut down the border and actually show immediate results on his immigration policies. And now we've had 1 million illegal immigrants self-deport. And we're still getting the numbers on the actual people who are being apprehended and deported on a daily basis in this country. Couldn't possibly do it. It's impossible. What are you thinking? And now the only thing they've got is to tell you that the economy is going to fall apart because their party has empowered these illegal immigrants to work for no wages and no benefits. And then you've got Jim Acosta saying that if you support Donald Trump, you're a stupid, brainwashed yokel. And now he's calling for deportations at the Trump golf courses and perhaps even Trump's wife. And they've got one more message for you, by the way. You know how they keep saying, how are we going to get young men back to vote for us? Young white voters, young white men, they won't vote for us anymore. Well, they've got another great idea. Here's the latest ad here showing a young white man and his rather brown-skinned girlfriend. I think you can see what's coming here.
I had a really good time today.
Yeah, me too. I really like.
What are you doing?
She's coming with us.
What are you talking about? Who are you?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're rounding up illegals.
She was born here. She's a citizen.
I don't care. She looks like one of them. But don't worry. When she's in prison in El Salvador, she'll have lots of company.
I love that they all have the word progress because that's progress. There's the message now from the Democrats. They're not desperate at all, guys. They're completely sane and rational, and they're delivering coherent, logical political messages to communicate to you why you should vote for them. They're telling you what they're for. They're not unhinged lunatics screaming about what they're against. No, that's progress, don't you know? Here's the message. Donald Trump is going to deport your hot brown-skinned girlfriend. Vote Democrat. By the way, young white women looking to get hooked up and married, probably fine with this policy. You can't tell me, though, that that's a Republican congressman. Come on. Hold on. See this moment right here? That's got Biden written all over it. Come on. Look at, he's even doing the sniff, the hair sniff. That's no Republican. That's a Democrat. That's Biden. They got nothing. They're hysterical. They're unhinged. They're out of control. And they continue to reveal exactly who they are. Have you seen the latest Mission Impossible movie? Or any of the Mission Impossible movies, for that matter? Here's every single Democrat in the media or in elected office right now on the immigration issue. They're ripping off the mask, and they're revealing exactly who they are. And it ain't pretty. And it's certainly not winning. All right, let's get right to it. Your Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, was on Capitol Hill yesterday, and it got rough. It got rough for the senators who thought they were going to make inroads with Secretary Hegseth and go after him. And, well, it sort of backfired on them, to say the least. I want to show you a couple of these clips here. By the way, this coming on the very day yesterday when the United States Navy announced that they exceeded their recruitment numbers for this fiscal year 3 months early. This, of course, coming a month after the Army did the exact same thing. Clock's ticking on you, Air Force, but I'm sure you can come through. This is incredible, actually, this success story for the Department of Defense. And did you hear a lot from the U.S. senators about that? Well, not from the Democrats, at least. Certainly not from Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan. Come on, Wolverines. What are you doing sending her to the U.S. Senate? Watch this.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Secretary, I said in your hearing, when you had your confirmation hearing, that my biggest concern with you at the helm was the potential use of the military in ways that contradict the Constitution or that taint what I hope we all want, which is an apolitical military. And when I asked you about whether you would accept an order that was actually given to your predecessor, Secretary Esper, Trump's SecDef, to deploy active duty troops against unarmed protesters and to, in Secretary Esper's words, shoot at them, shoot at their legs. You said this was all theoretical. Here we are, a few months later, you've deployed 4,700 troops to Los Angeles and against the wishes of the governor. And my colleague across the aisle was right. It is the first time since 1965 that we have deployed Guard troops without the permission of the governor. In all the instances he laid out, the president had sent in the military to protect protesters, not against the protesters. So you may dismiss it, but I feel like this is a fundamental issue of American democracy. If you love your country and you want an apolitical military, then it should be the last resort, not the first resort in our country to use them. So to get to the non-theoretical, have you authorized the uniformed military to detain or arrest protesters in Los Angeles?
Senator, I would just start by saying you're not a protester if you're throwing concrete
100%.
at
Arrest those people,
officers.
throw them in the jail, 100%. But what you're doing is something different. Everyone knows this is a political decision, right? So we don't trust that you're using the best interests of the military, certainly, and of democracy on top of that. So have you given the order? That's all I want to know. It's not theoretical. For the U.S. military, not law enforcement. They can arrest all day long. That's the job. Do they have the ability, the uniformed military, to arrest and detain protesters currently today?
I
It's a yes or no thing, authority.
It's sort of amusing the extent to which the speculation is out there. These troops are given very clear orders.
Then what is the order? Then list it out for us. Be a man, list it out. Did you authorize them to detain or arrest? That is a fundamental issue of democracy. I'm not trying to be a snot here. I'm just trying to get the actual, did you authorize them to do that?
She is actually trying to be a snot, and she just gave it away by saying, be a man. What is that? And I want to point out that up until that moment, this has been a rather respectful exchange here. And also wish to point out that they both agree on one thing, and that is if you're throwing things at police officers, you're not merely a protester. And she said, yes, arrest them. Now, that's fascinating, considering the fact that that's the only reason the military is there. Let me tell you something. If we just had a bunch of people holding pre-printed signs from Soros-backed non-government organizations standing on the sidewalks, chanting their stupid chants and hitting their stupid drums and cashing their $20 an hour paychecks for going out there and protesting on behalf of the Democrats, we wouldn't have an issue here. We wouldn't have the National Guard deployed in Los Angeles or in California. But everybody knows the truth here, and everybody knows what happened. We had federal law enforcement officers who were being assaulted by these people, and the federal buildings were being attacked and vandalized by these people. That's why the National Guard is in the streets. So the problem here is, when giving a clear and defined answer to Ms. Slotkin, is that they won't say exactly what a protester is. Is a protester somebody who defaces a federal building? Is a protester somebody who blocks traffic? Is a protester somebody who throws something, even a water bottle, at a law enforcement officer? Is a protester somebody who will link arms with an individual who is being arrested by federal law enforcement officers? Because I don't think they are. The second you impede federal law enforcement officers from doing their job and carrying out lawful law enforcement work, you have crossed the gap of being a protester to actually impeding a federal officer's work and duties. And at that point, you're not a protester, you're a felon, and you should be arrested. So this is a trap question, because the second anybody in a military uniform engages with the local police in arresting or detaining somebody who's engaged in those activities I just outlined, they'll say, hey, they're arresting protesters. You said they weren't going to arrest protesters. But you see, they're not protesters anymore. A protester is somebody who stands lawfully exercising their First Amendment rights and sings Kumbaya while drinking espresso from an overpriced Starbucks cup, live streaming on their very expensive Chinese manufactured iPhone. That's what a protester is, don't you know? So now it starts to get ugly, because Alyssa Slotkin did decide to get snotty when she said, be a man, suggesting, by the way, what does that mean exactly? That's kind of gender biased, isn't it? Isn't that kind of sexist? What does that mean to be a man? So only a man acts in a certain way? You mean courageous and forthright and dignified, and women can't do that? What is wrong with her? Where's cancel culture when you need it?
All of these orders and what they're sent there to do are public. They are
Okay,
there
so
to...
say it. So say it. Yes or no?
I'd like to.
Please, yes or no?
As I've said time and time again through interruption, they're there to protect law enforcement.
Do they have
ICE
the ability
officers
to arrest?
who are trying to do their job, deporting illegals who were allowed in by the previous administration.
So they cannot arrest and detain citizens of the United States, the uniformed military.
As we've stated, if necessary, in their own self-defense, they could temporarily detain and hand over to ICE. But there's no arresting going on. And you know this better than you're trying to play political games. There's no arresting of U.S. personnel.
Of the U.S. military against members of the protest. Have you authorized U.S. military cyber tools to investigate people participating in these protests? Yes or no?
All right. Let me just give you a little insight here, having worked in Washington, D.C. in the media for as long as I have now. That question seems sort of out of left field, didn't it? But that is an oddly specific question. and not one of your typical questions, right? I mean, you go from detaining and arresting American citizens engaged in exercising their First Amendment rights to military cyber personnel being authorized. And I'll explain to you where that question came from. She has received a leak. She has received some kind of whistleblower inside information about military personnel or assets being utilized, probably by the Justice Department, which there's nothing wrong with, to further investigate money trails going on in the back door across state lines to help out these groups that are causing havoc and rioting in the streets of Los Angeles. She already knows the answer to this question. That's why she asked it so specifically. So just watch this space and watch the answer.
Certainly in no way that I'd be aware of.
Okay, that's good. I love that answer. That's great. Have you given...
Why does she love that answer? Why does she love that answer? Because the next leak will be to the Washington Post or the New York Times, and then we'll have a scandal that he just lied under oath. That's why she loves that answer. Just remember this, bookmark this, favorite this video. I promise you this will come back. All right, back to Snotkin here. Is it Snotkin?
In the order to be able to shoot at unarmed protesters in any way? I'm just asking the question. Don't laugh. Like the whole country. And by the way, my colleagues across the aisle.
What is that based on? What evidence would you have that an order like that has ever been given?
Giving that order to your predecessor, to a Republican Secretary of Defense, who I give a lot of credit to because he didn't accept the order. He had more guts and balls than you because he said, I'm not going to send in the uniformed military to do something that I know in my gut isn't right.
Did she just talk about his genitals? What is going on with this woman? Again, just for a second, imagine Marjorie Taylor Greene using this language against Lloyd Austin in a hearing in the House during the last administration. Do you think maybe that would cause an uproar with Rachel Maddow? The hell is going on here, Michigan? All right, so again, the question is, have you given orders to allow the military to shoot at American citizens? And if I were Pete Hegseth, I would also say, what the hell are you talking about, woman? But that's fine. Go ahead. Start talking about his genitals.
He was asked to shoot at their legs. He wrote that in his book. That's not hearsay. So your poo-pooing of this, it just shows you don't understand who we are as a country, who we are. And all of my colleagues across the aisle, especially the ones that served, should want an apolitical military and not want citizens to be scared of their own military. I love the military. I served alongside my whole life. So I'm worried about you tainting it. Have you given the order? Have you given the order that they can use lethal force against honor? I want the answer to be no. Please tell me it's no. Have you given the order?
Good Lord, the drama queen here. By the way, I'm keeping score. I've heard man up, I've heard poo-poo, I've heard balls, and I've heard taint. There's something going on here. Am I the only one? Am I the one with the mind? I heard it all. I heard all of that. Okay. All right. So we got 30 more seconds of this one, and we'll see how Pete Hegseth finishes up here.
Senator, I'd be careful what you read in books and believing it, except for the Bible.
Oh my God. So your former predecessor, I guess that's not enough for you. Okay. On Iran.
Wow, that's quite an exciting logo. Who are these guys? Grassroots Army. All right. Well, thanks for making the clip for us, Grassroots Army. Sure, that was very dramatic. All right. So there you go. Because her evidence that Donald Trump wants American citizens shot at by the military is from a disgruntled former Secretary of Defense who put it in a book with no corroboration in any way whatsoever. And that's why Hegseth says, be careful what you read in books. All right. So there you go. Let's move on, shall we? Hegseth went across the building to the House side, and one Congresswoman Jacobs from San Diego area had a very important question.
Because if it were, you would be keeping these women in. Instead, you are the one injecting culture wars into the military.
Oh, real fast. I'm sorry. Let me just set it up with a little bit more detail so you know what's happening. She is questioning Secretary Hegseth about the current policy that discharges transgender individuals. Mostly she's concerned about men who enlisted as men and then while in the military decided that they would now present as women. And so it's going to get confusing because she keeps talking about women. And I just want to make sure you knew she means men who dress up like women, you know, like RuPaul or Corporal Klinger, that sort of thing. Okay, go ahead.
Because if it were, you would be keeping these women in. Instead, you are the one injecting culture wars into the military, and it's at the detriment of our military readiness and national security. Now, General Kane, I'd like to turn to you.
So to be clear, these are men who think they're women.
These are women. I'm happy to educate you on
But these are men.
on trans
and so
issues at another
what we've
time.
identified is that there's mental health issues with that belief system.
I'd like to turn to
that
General
are
Kane
detrimental
now.
to readiness, and that's the determination that we've made and that we stand behind. Gender dysphoria.
And so you don't
There you go. That was a pretty good answer there, by the way, by the Secretary of Defense. And it's, of course, been supported and backed up through the legal channels that, of course, it got challenged in. Yes, the Pentagon and the administration and the commander-in-chief have the right to make that determination. I do like the condescension here from our young congresswoman in San Diego, where there's a lot of military, by the way, Navy and Marines all over San Diego area, where she says, I'd be happy to educate you on this. If I were Secretary Hegseth, I would say, oh, please. Oh, can we pause the clock here for a moment? Please educate me on what a woman, because we've been trying to get this answer for years. Frickin' Matt Walsh did a whole movie about it and he still can't get an answer. So yes, educate me about how these are women. I would have loved to have seen how that exchange went. A little bit more from Pete Hegseth. By the way, did you notice that young superstar Congresswoman Ms. Jacobs from San Diego was reading most of what she did? Same thing. Now, I got to say to Slotkin in Michigan, she was referring to her notes and constantly reading too, but she's better at the performance. She rehearsed in her bathroom mirror, I think, a little bit more than most of these congresswomen. This next one, brand new senator from Nevada. She's really bad. Watch the scripted action here and how she just has to stick right there. I mean, she would never make it as a teleprompter reader. Jen Psaki can do miles on her with the teleprompter. Watch how bad she is as she gets into it with Hegseth. If you notice, by the way, they keep throwing women at him. It's all the women who are doing the heavy lifting against Secretary Hegseth on behalf of the Democrats. I wonder why that is. Don't you?
Did you discuss General Hawk's dismissal with Laura Loomer prior to his removal?
I don't discuss who I talk about anything with, but ultimately this is my decision and he serves at the pleasure of the president, and that's why he's no longer there.
So do you believe it's appropriate for any social media personality to influence personnel decisions in your department? Yes or no?
I believe your time is up, Senator.
Oh, it is not up to you to tell me when my time is up.
Well, the time
And I
of
am
the
going to say,
senator.
Mr. Secretary, you're either feckless or complicit. You're not in control of your department. You're unserious. It is shocking. You're not combating anti-Semitism within your ranks. It's a dangerous and pivotal time in our nation's history. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back. And I don't appreciate the smirk, sir. You are the Secretary of Defense.
I don't appreciate this break. So I love it that her big gotcha moment was a social media influencer having some sort of influence over personnel decisions at the Pentagon. What a nonsense issue that is, especially at a time where we've got our military deployed around the world, where they're getting fired upon on a regular basis by terrorists in the Middle East while they're facing down the threat of China in the Pacific. And the questions are about somebody who got fired, and she thinks it was because of an internet personality, as she puts it. Honestly, it's such a waste of time for us, let alone the Secretary of Defense. And I got to keep it real, as I often do. That whole your time is up, Senator thing. If that were a Democrat and Ted Cruz was doing the questioning, and Lloyd Austin didn't want to answer the question and said, your time is up, Senator, I would have hated it. Absolutely hated it. But because it was Hegseth and because the senator was a Democrat, I thought that was a great moment. A little snotty, but that's okay. They need a little bit of it pushed back. And if I had the day that Hegseth had, suffering these fools all day on Capitol Hill, I probably, believe it or not, I know you'll be shocked, would have gotten a little snotty too. All right, that's our show. Thank you for watching today on this Thursday. We've got big news, by the way. So if you're watching right now, don't leave because I've got big show news for you coming up in a second. Do we have any super chats, Kevin?
We do not.
Oh, well, maybe I won't give you the news then. I've got big news about the show, and now I got no super chats. Maybe I'll. No, I'm kidding. We don't beg for super chats here. We appreciate them every day when they come, like a surprise. It's like waking up on Christmas morning and you weren't expecting anything. Actually, it's better than Christmas morning. On Christmas morning, you expect presents. It's like Christmas in June. It's like you wake up and, oh my gosh, look at that. There's a super chat. Okay, big news on the show because we're a Monday through Thursday concern, as you know. We've had our odd Friday shows here and there. Sometimes we do something special, maybe a long-form interview. Last year, we used to do a panel show on Friday for a couple of months. Well, you've asked for it. And now you got it. Starting tomorrow, we'll be on. Same time, same place. So I hope you're happy. Just in time for my beautiful summertime here in the Chesapeake Bay in the greater Annapolis area. I could be out kayaking tomorrow, but no, I'll be right here. And you better be here too. We'll see you tomorrow. In the meantime, thanks for watching. My name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.